website. But I'd like to just do a little quick overview of the specialty meat webinar series. Today's webinar is all about entering markets and the meeting protocol standards for those who are thinking maybe as a livestock producer to really be able to expand their markets. So this has been a project of a number of partners, and we're very excited that we'll continue probably to do these webinars. ACEnet has been the primary webinar facilitator. My name is Leslie Schaller, and the two staff members at ACEnet who have been responsible putting a lot of the schedule and the content for these webinars together are myself and Madeline Brewer, who also is our special projects coordinator and has been really critical in terms of her role helping us get wider distribution for value-added and meat processed products throughout Central Appalachia. So a lot of this work started really by Unlimited Future Inc., and we're going to do an introduction here of the different organizations. But our webinar series is really grounded in a lot of the report findings from Beefing Up Appalachia. Downstream Strategies, another one of our partners, was also very instrumental in getting the report together on behalf of all the various stakeholders. So just a quick infomercial, the Appalachian Center for Economic Networks, or ACEnet, is a community-based organization. We've been around since 1985 and really primarily serving the 32 counties of Appalachia, Ohio, but always delighted to work with many of our partners and anchor organizations throughout Central Appalachia. Annie Stroud, previously of Downstream Strategies, has moved on to the for-profit world, but is still engaged in some of this work and certainly playing a role helping Gail and many of the partners at UFI still look at the meat sector having tremendous opportunities for small livestock farmers throughout the region. So Annie was really, again, instrumental in a lot of the content we're going to review here today. And then great photograph of Gail. Gail, do you want to say a few words about Unlimited Future Inc. and your role in this project?
Yes, Unlimited Future is a small business incubator and resource center in Huntington, West Virginia. We've been around since 1991 and have been helping people who want to start a business. And we helped the Wild Ramp get started in 2012. The Wild Ramp is a year-round indoor retail market for local food, and the purpose of the Wild Ramp is to connect consumers and producers with a place where people can find locally produced products easily, and it makes a good outlet for the producers. So our main goal as Unlimited Future is to help producers make more money and find new markets. So the Beefing Up Appalachia report came out of the fact that we were having trouble with processing and being able to do value-added meat sales as much as we had hoped we could. We lost one of our processors, was unable to continue smoking bacon and ham, and that was a pretty big loss for us. So in the process of doing the report, we found that there are lots of other opportunities out there that we could be taking advantage of that might help increase revenue for those livestock producers. So that's the whole purpose of the study and the work that we're doing at Follow Up Now.
Okay, thanks, Gail. This has been incredible work, I would say, of great benefit to many of the producers that we all work with in Ohio and West Virginia, but we're hoping with these webinars and certainly with the leadership role that UFI has played to really get this information and these resources out and about throughout Central Appalachia. So then our other presenter is the renowned and incredible Tootie Jones from Swift Level Farm and Swift Level Fine Meats. Tootie, would you like to say a few words about your involvement in this project?
Sure. My involvement becomes apparent as a cattle operator. I have beef, finished beef, so I have cattle, finished beef, and that went on to creating our store, Swift Level Fine Meat. Our business was growing to a point, as were the other farms that I was working with, where we really needed a larger full-time retail space. So out of that grew the dream and now the property and everything we're learning with that. So we have a retail space here that feeds counter space for about 22 different producing farms. We have stepped right into our value-added producing arm of curing and smoking bacons and hams, making pastrami, smoking and curing fish, and working more in depth with how producers can ramp up their production to keep our shelves stocked. We also service a number of restaurants, and our sales are expanding greatly. I feel that our shop is our meat retail university for West Virginia. I'm very happy to be the headmaster of that school. And we're learning a lot and have opened our doors to a lot of training elsewhere. So thank you for including me in this project. It's really been great.
And again, we can't say enough about how great Tootie has been. Being able to do this work from the depth of her experience has been really important. She is incredibly generous with both her time and her expertise, and it is making a huge difference, not just in the Greenbrier Valley, but really throughout the region. So we're happy to continue this work, and hopefully with additional funding coming in the future, we'll be able to take a lot of this information to a much broader audience. So I think I missed a slide. So a lot of what we're going to talk about today is information that many of us have captured in what we're calling different toolkits. And what we've tried to do is really create resource guides that are very accessible, so easy to read, maybe at the most 2 to 4 pages in length. ACEnet has developed many of the toolkits around branding and the development of marketing materials. It's a great opportunity for us to demonstrate some of the incredible work that our livestock and meat processing partners have been able to do in Ohio, as well as some of the partnerships in West Virginia who were engaged in this project. The growing standards toolkits we'll talk about here to a large degree throughout this webinar. This is content that Tootie, again, shouldered most of the responsibility to put together. Our partner, Annie, at Downstream Strategies helped design and really put the materials together in a really appealing and, I would say, easily accessible way. So we're still in the process of finishing up these toolkits. We have, I think right now, about 4 completed and ready for publication, or 4 marketing, and I think 2 producer or growing to standards toolkits. So at some point we'll switch from the PowerPoint slides and give you a little taste of what they look like, but we'll be making these toolkits available as PDFs. So if you're interested, we can send them to you as an attachment, as a PDF to your email. We also will have them accessible soon on our websites. So Megan Loveland, many of you know, on ACEnet staff, is putting together a section just on the acenetworks.org website that you'll be able to access all these training materials. So let us know if you're interested. We can get them out to you quickly, but we can also hopefully start to populate a lot of these resources on our various websites. So branding, I think this is really what ACEnet is probably best equipped to share information on. We do a lot of different projects with our clients and our tenants in our business incubators to really build a brand program for each and every one of their businesses. And I think a lot of times there's a little bit of confusion between what's branding and what's marketing. What we really want to help people do, especially our livestock producers and our meat processors, is come up with a brand program that really differentiates their products. So in many ways, this is an overall strategy within your marketing plan. And our goal is to really set your marketing techniques and tools apart so that you have that competitive edge. I think with local food and the movement that we've seen throughout southeastern Ohio and certainly throughout central Appalachia is what we have going for us as a local farmer or a local business is our story. You know, that sense of place, where we are from, what we aspire to be in terms of our goals for our business. So applying this to any kind of goods or services really helps create that identity that consumers are going to hopefully respond to. We want to create a customer loyalty oftentimes that is really key to that brand image that we're creating. So brand identity is more than just your logo or your marketing materials. It's part of that connection, that story that you tell to your customers and build sort of that I would say loyal following because they are so aware of your story, the quality of your products, and oftentimes that sense of place, hometown pride, I think is really a good piece of the overall locavore movement that we've seen throughout the area. So just some great photographs from some of the storytelling and images that Tootie has had prepared for some of her website and marketing materials. Tootie, maybe you could say a couple things about, you know, how you create your story and really use either social media or your website to kind of evoke that sense of place, that sense of your brand.
Sure. I'll begin with the logo, which are the two slips that you see on the left. And that was developed by my late husband in 1993. We had to rename the farm, but I was already deep into marketing concepts at that point. So we felt that a logo just to earmark the property was a fresh start because the farm needed a new name. So I've kept that logo on absolutely everything that's gone out for the farm since 1994, sort of like a good housekeeping seal, but I realize people recognize a logo and remember that for words. The other part of our farm is that it has a long history, but we use that history from before my family all the way back to the native people that lived here. That helped us come up with our name. Using that, I find, is a broader canvas because not everybody's interested in the one thing. So we brought the history back forward. On our website here, you'll see a photograph of my grandparents and my mother and her brothers. And that has a story of its own that some people recognize from the farm. But it also gives some age and some history to something that we are connected to in 2018. The right-hand corner is a personal piece of however that photograph comes across to you. I mean, it's an older barn, it's a picture of me, but it's also with really quiet cattle and how that speaks to someone. And the other picture that we use shows the barn from sort of a more sweeping view. So it captures, the photographs really are 1,000 words each because they ring for individuals in their own individual way. So we try to put a broad brush on that to hook our customer in some way with some feeling. And to me, that's the first step, is to captivate the audience. and then the rest is the story. But we have to get them in that first paragraph or that first photo. As our business has evolved, because we started out really as a guest house and bed and breakfast and horse rides in the mountains, but we had a clientele that recognized that logo. So as we expanded into our grass-finished beef operation and now into our retail shop, I have clients that I had in 1994 that are purchasing beef from us because they've been part of our story and our family, and they share that with each other. That to me has shown the vital importance of having a commitment to quality and integrity. And it's very important that when we go into a branded version that you do a lot of due diligence. You can't slack off. Quality has to be maintained at all times.
Great. Thanks, Tootie. So this is kind of a wonky, complicated diagram of thinking about branding. And we have, again, from ACEnet for this project, a lot of different toolkit materials on marketing. But to a large degree, what we want to do is demystify how to develop your brand. And a lot of times, the average I would say startup business, or maybe the livestock farmer who is looking to do sort of value-added processing, you're not really all the time thinking about how to build your brand program. You might sell direct through the farmer's market, or you might sell through a CSA. So this hopefully is just kind of a way to maybe organize some of your thinking around branding. A lot of this is building what we like to refer to as the brand equity. And we'll talk more about that when we talk about growing to protocol and really identifying some of the standards and some of the values that you want to share with your customers as you build and market your products. So brand identity is really important. And I think that previous slide and Tootie's comments about really what's important for her in terms of telling the story of Swift Level, how it's evolved over time, that's all part of the brand identity. So whether you're developing images to tell your story, maybe on social media, whether you're developing more narrative content that might be in printed marketing materials, or maybe part of some of the content on your website, thinking about what your strategies are, how you're building that program. We think logos are particularly important. Oftentimes your logo maybe is going to even evolve a little bit over time. I think about Tootie's logo. It evolved to be able to work for the fine meat shop that she's opened in recent years. So looking at all the tools at your disposal, whether it's different types of media, hosting events, maybe even at some point investing in advertising, maybe paying some fees for underwriting at your PBS station, or doing print advertisements in your local newspaper. All of these things are part and parcel of creating that brand strategy. And as I mentioned, we have a whole toolkit that will walk you through some of the things that you might want to develop as you think about designing your brand. If you've worked with ACEnet at all, you know that we're big fans of social media. We just feel that this is probably one of the most affordable marketing tools that we all have. Most of us have that little mini computer, our phone, in our pockets. So we have a lot of opportunity. And certainly I would say as technology advances, these tools get easier and easier to use. So whether you're using Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, there's a lot of different ways that you can share information about your products, about your store, about your farm. We certainly encourage you to use these as tools to better connect with your customers. One of the great things that we like to do with our farmers at the Athens Farmers Market is really encourage them to take some photos, maybe while they're at the market, or post what they're going to have available the following day at the market. So anything that really, I would say, puts a sense of face and place onto your brand is going to be really meaningful. You know, we're human beings. We want to connect with other human beings. So offering those little glimpses into your life on your farm, the relationship you may have with your animals, the quality of your products, you know, all of these things are particularly important. I don't know, Madeline, if you want to add some stuff here. You know, we have great resources here at ACEnet on our staff to really help people navigate maybe some of the challenges of using social media. So if you're working with nonprofits, whether it's ACEnet or Unlimited Future Inc., there's probably a variety of ways that you can get some help. So Madeline, what would you like to share about our experience working with farmers and processors using social media?
So I think you really talked about it when you talked about branding and marketing, telling your story. The most important thing when you're working with a local brand and you want to reach your local customers, even on a regional basis, they're buying your food because they care about you and they care about your products. And because of that, they want to see your story. Things that might not seem important to you, like feeding your animals every day or the sunrise over your farm, while that's something you appreciate every day, that's something your customers also want to see and will help them create that authentic connection with your brand. And I guess to bring that back to social media platforms are really easy and affordable. Most of them are free way to do that, especially with things like Instagram story and Facebook story, which allow you to just post a glimpse for 24 hours and then they disappear. Just taking full advantage of functionalities like that across all social media platforms.
Can you give us some suggestions in terms of how to use hashtags, or, you know, how do we create more engagement, I guess, with our customers? You know, how do we drive more followers and likes to our Facebook page?
So there are several ways that you can do that. The primary way is by sharing and tagging your partners, encouraging your current customers to leave reviews for your products on your Facebook page, asking them to share about their experiences. Another interesting concept that's just come about is the idea of a social media takeover, where you find one of your great partners, maybe it's your farmer's market, maybe it's a local store that sources your products, and asking them to let you take over their social media account for the day. This allows you to reach their followers, so they might have a much larger following than you, and when they give you their information, they can allow you to share with their followers.
Great. And I think what we've learned here at ACEnet is our staff creates a lot of original content as well. So tagging our businesses, tagging our farmers, hopefully anything that we create, they're going to share on their pages. So, you know, this is the way that we get more eyes on the work and the products that we're doing throughout the region. Whoops, I think I went too far. So one of the other challenges, and we've done a whole toolkit just on labeling, this is probably, especially with meat products, something that many folks might find challenging to navigate. So we have folks on our staff at ACEnet, Adam Cody and Josh Waddell, who have been trained both in HACCP, but also working very closely with our Ohio Department of Agriculture staff members. So figuring out, you know, what exactly you need to do in terms of compliances, The toolkits will give you sort of the introductory overview, but many of us are also available to really act as business counselors or advisors, and definitely connect people with what they need to know and what some of the other resources are out there in terms of navigating a lot of the meat division or some of the FDA regulations. In upcoming webinars, we're going to have folks both from Ohio and West Virginia take a deeper dive in some of the HACCP plans, some of the compliance issues that someone just getting started maybe in our new meat processing facility here at ACEnet would need to know. So stay tuned. We'll be advertising more of those webinars in the upcoming weeks and months. So Tootie, I'm going to hand more of this over to you. We have, again, just a little bit of an excerpt in terms of growing to standards. And again, Tootie is the expert here. We have toolkits that will go into much more depth that we can share. But Tootie, why don't you get us started here in terms of what growing to standard really means?
I feel the first thing as a meat producer, but this could be for whatever, a person has to develop their own personal standards so that there are goals that can be met when we're producing a product that we're offering to the public or to our families. But there has to be a base point of idea of what is this product and what is the goal of this product. That is, I think, really important in marketing anything, because that's the first step in developing consistency in product. What we do on the farm, and I'm working with other producers now, is I would like to see everyone's products be individual, because there again is the story and the branding for those individual farms and products. But our consumers want to know, and those selling our products want to know, that there's a consistency in product. And to me, the standard begins right on the farm, a standard of how we care for the land, how we care for our water, how we care for the animals, feeding, all of that. That's the base for what then becomes known as your product. And then you know what to say to your customer when they ask you. You're very confident in your process, and that's vitally important. When selling meat to other people to resell your meat, it's very important that you follow either your own standard or work together with those people, developing a standard that works for those marketing protocols. And standards, if you walk into the world in the arena of third-party verification or certification, for instance, Animal Welfare Approved, American Grass-Fed Association, humanely grown, naturally grown, all of that, that's the accountability that has to be shown on paperwork, but that also is the basis for developing standards. That helps. And here you can see exactly what Leslie's pulled up for. These are key tabs that give our customers confidence in what we are offering them as sellers. It's also a very important method for tracking and traceability. Traceability when putting our product out in the market as a meat product is very important, and to be transparent, being upfront, and again, confident in how that product arrives on the shelf. There again, we have our quality and consistency. It is another vital importance here that I can't stress enough to people, that if we switch how we feed our chickens or our hogs or beef midway through there, it's going to impact the quality and consistency of that product. And there are a lot of other things that impact your environmental impact, starting on the farm all the way through. If we switch processors and our meat is cut differently, restaurants are not going to be happy, because all of a sudden that steak is being delivered in a different way, or that sausage may be seasoned in a different recipe. It's very important to select and develop the consistency that works for you, but your customer, that's what your customer is looking for, is that product to reach for off the shelf that they can depend on as what they had the last time, which is what brought them back to buying from you.
So, Tootie, what have you learned, transitioning from selling direct, maybe selling at farmers markets over the year, and now operating your own retail location? I mean, you're probably learning quite a bit more from your customers' feedback, maybe having a deeper understanding of what their expectations are. What do you hear, I guess, from your customers?
Well, that's a really good question. It's mostly about pricing, and pricing is tricky because everybody has a different base cost that impacts the price of the product on the shelf. What people do comment on is they're looking, for instance, chicken. They love coming in and buying chicken because it has a taste, and they see a remarkable difference in grocery store, sort of big chain poultry, chicken, as to these farm-raised birds. And that's a big seller. So taste is one. They come back for taste. So many people come in and they want to buy meat, but they're not sure how to cook them. So we've really had to step up to having anyone at the counter checking people out has to know how to cook and has to understand the cut. We find the people that come into our shop, they want to explore that whole region around foods and explore different ways to cook and all the methodology, and they engage in conversations. It's not a grab and go type of situation, so they're also looking to have that relationship with someone that can guide them into this shared relationship with food. I had no idea how it was going to pan out, but we're constantly kind of doing more and more to accommodate our customers, and our customer base continues to grow, and I think a lot of that is because we offer so much support. So those are sort of key points. Some of our tricky parts are that keeping the volume inventory on the shelf. That's where people get a little frustrated. They come in and they want to make sure what they came in for is there because they're trained that way. That's what happens at our bigger chain stores. And that might be one of our, it's not a complication, and it's a good thing because there's just more demand for the product. It's just working through that and really continually dialing up the amount of product that we have. It doesn't hit a particular financial demographic either. I'll have people that will come in and all they can really buy is that one package of pork sausage that week, but by golly, they want it because it's really good and that's what they want to have on Sunday morning for breakfast. So it's really across the board.
So having that quality, it seems like a lot of what you have really emphasized, and again, because you do so much one-on-one and kind of training with some of the other farmers, how does the quality, I guess, of that end meat product and the expectations your customers have, how does it fit in with the sort of raising of animals?
It's a choice that we establish right off the bat with our producers. If I receive product in the store that isn't packaged properly or it doesn't look right to me, it just doesn't go on the shelf. I have to guarantee my customers that end of it. I find that our producers in general are excited because now they have an option to sell their meat 6 days a week on top of their other marketing venues. They're all very open to sharing their feeding protocols and come to us, what can we do to make this better? Because it's helping them create more volume and product. We lost one chicken producer, sadly, due to health issues, but then that opened up a market of, hey guys, we need 4,500 pounds of chicken from somebody else this year. Who wants to take it? Those are the types of things that we find moving around in there, it's a lot easier to do that with chickens than it is with cattle, because it takes a lot more time with cattle. But everyone, for the most part, seems pretty on board with following what our protocols are so that they can sell more products.
And how did you develop those relationships? Were these folks that you already knew from your community, maybe knew through other direct marketing collaborations, or, you know, has the word just spread that once you got the store open, here's a new opportunity?
Many of our relationships began when I was working with Monroe Farm Market online. So they have been farms that I've been dealing with and marketing for another venue for a number of years. But we've also had producers come to us that want to sell their product at the shop, and they're people that I have never met before. They're new, they're first timers with livestock, and that's a conversation, you know. They want me to sell their pork, but they haven't produced any pork yet, but they want to know this is a place that's going to sell it. And that's the tough conversation of, I need to know all of your protocols, and I have to taste your meat. You know, and that's the first thing for everyone. I have to taste your meat to tell you whether or not it's going to work or not. I don't want our customers to be the guinea pig. But people are looking for a place that can continually sell their product. And not everyone can go to the farm market, and I think it's hard to make a living at a farm market. So hopefully what we're offering is an option that all of our towns could start to develop a similar model to help our production farms go up in volume and be more vibrant financially.
Great. So you're really, in your region, filling a gap and maybe giving hope for folks to scale up their production.
That's our goal.
So in terms of the quality and consistency in processing, I've, like many of us, have had lengthy conversations about some of the challenges using our processing facilities in Ohio. You know, we've lost a lot. Many folks have been going out of business because the next generation in their family don't necessarily want to take over the operations. So, you know, given sometimes the challenges of not having enough processing facilities, you know, how do we get this quality and consistency in processing?
Well, there again, I think is that relationship and volume. How much product are you actually having processed and when? And I think always having a backup. It's sort of even like our marketing streams. We don't want to put all of our eggs in one basket. And it does require relationship building and the processor understanding what our market outcome is going to be. We are currently using 3 processors, and I'm doing that intentionally, but everybody's in a bit of a precarious place except for one, and the one that is less precarious is the one that I'd rather not depend on the most. So it's a little bit of shuffling around, and I think this is just going to be part of, I don't want to say it's an issue, but it is a juggling act. And if we could turn our volume of slaughter up enough to keep these facilities running, I see the future in other people opening up a processing facility. That can then create the consistency we need in that cut. That's where we've really got to focus on the person who creates the consistent meat. So that's the producer's responsibility, and the person that creates that consistent quality cut and wrap. If we're selling to a larger market, it might not have as much impact locally because the meat should taste the same. West Virginia and rural areas of Appalachia, Ohio, rural Virginia, North Carolina are all faced with this as production wants to turn up to meet the consumer demand.
So ACEnet's strategy has been, we've recognized some of the challenges that our livestock farmers have, and the impetus for us to create our value-added meat processing space in our Nelsonville facility was to really allow folks to take whole carcasses, break them down. We have some amazing artisanal butchers here who are also, I think, very open to passing on some of their skills and some of their expertise. But we're hoping that with more opportunities for folks to make sausage and charcuterie, and maybe someday in the future we can expand some of the other processing we can do, like smoking. We're hoping that this continues to, number one, meet some of the demand that consumers shopping at the farmers market or shopping in our specialty stores or the chefs at some of our restaurants will be able to find the cuts, find the quality meat products that they really want to serve. And then hopefully, again, I think we're all optimistic that that demand maybe will create more private investment in developing more processing and certainly even more retail infrastructure as well.
Leslie, this past 2 weeks I purchased, to fill a restaurant order for a well-known resort, it necessitated purchasing 19 hogs to fill the pork chop order. But so an example is all those hogs went to the one facility that could accommodate slaughtering 19 hogs at a time to make our deadline. But in order not to interrupt the sausage recipe that we use and the linking and grind, I was able to take all the inspected products that was needed for sausage, and we're taking it to our other processor so that we can continue to offer that consistent product to our customers. And that's an example of how, when working through the regulatory system with inspected meat, that can happen very easily. It just takes more time. But that's touching exactly on what you're doing there at your Nelsonville facility.
Well, that's what we're hoping, and hopefully sometime soon. We're in the final stages, I think, of the final steps in licensing. But being able to work with our processors and then utilize this new infrastructure at ACEnet hopefully is going to best fit a lot of customers' demand for different cuts and different types of products. So additional reasons, you talked a little bit, Tootie, about some of the environmental values that you have in terms of land use practices, maybe farmland preservation. In terms of buying and supporting local meat and our livestock farmers throughout Central Appalachia, what are some of the lessons learned, I guess, from your experience in recent years?
When I go to a farm for a farm site visit, the first thing I look at is how is that place maintained, because it tells me how those animals are going to be maintained and how the land is used and supported and not, because that is the basis for that. Also, there are a lot of programs available that help build that infrastructure for livestock production by land use management, for water development, fencing, things of that sort. There again, some of these third-party certifications require certain land use management techniques now. It's gotten that defined. It's wonderful to see. The first step was livestock producers developing a relationship with animal welfare approved, but now those standards have even deepened with land use practices. And I think that is such a good thing to see and to witness, because that helps us be aware of impact. And I believe our customers are starting to question not only the impacts on animal welfare, but environmentally. So that to me is value added. There's a great value to that. And there's a pride that's instilled and a knowledge and the people caring for the land and those animals that translates to our customers that is priceless, truly priceless.
Mhm. And I think that, circles us back to some of the things that Madeline shared in terms of using social media for that storytelling. That people do care about farmland preservation. They do want to support their local livestock farms. Again, we live in a rural place where I live out on Angel Ridge near Shade, Ohio. I go through a lot of my sort of meditation time driving back and forth on the ridge and just seeing that sense of the animals grazing or sort of the shifts in the season. There's just, I would say, whether you're a rural or urban consumer of local meat or regional meat products, being able to sort of make that connection of how sacred and how important our rural places are can be, I think, pretty meaningful for all of us. And it's a value we probably want to share.
Absolutely. And it's a value that I think is overlooked because sometimes we forget, especially to people. We have no idea where their lives are, but for them to see an engaged family on a farm or just a peaceful sunset through social media, we have no idea how that's impacting them. But it is giving our broader view in the world, it's giving it to people. It's something that's worth sharing.
So these toolkits that Tootie has helped put together, really go through all this information section by section. So whether you're interested in maybe telling your story a little bit more deeply about how your operation benefits your animals, how it benefits your rural place, how it benefits the environment, all of this information is available through the toolkits. And we're urging not just our livestock farmers, but even our processors and retailers to have a better sense of all these various benefits. So anything else maybe on the environmental benefits, Tootie, and then we'll maybe look at some of these toolkits.
Just to put out, again, there are a lot of support factors out in the world available to cost share. NRCS is one, conservation agency is another. There are a lot of private land trusts. There is a lot of help out there for people that are new to this concept to reach out to them, and it's free help. It's free consulting, and they'll come in and at least share their ideas to help people make that first step.
Great.
And those
I think a lot of our roles here, from the partners, whether it's Tootie, whether it's Unlimited Future Inc. or ACEnet or many of the other partners throughout Central Appalachia, a lot of times we are familiar with these resources and can hopefully help you make the connection. Just a little infomercial before we open up the toolkits and follow up on our next steps. We have another webinar scheduled for September 10th. We were hoping that this next webinar would maybe actually include some video and some sort of live time images from our meat processing facility. But we're still, I don't want to say twisting in the wind, but we're still in a timeline that isn't totally 100% clear yet if we'll be able to do processing in our new facility 2 weeks from today on September 10th. So we may do some shifting in terms of the titles, so stay tuned. Again, this slide just gives you a lot of different ways that you can find out about the webinar schedule. But I would say follow any of us on Facebook. Gail at Unlimited Future Inc. Also shares a lot of this information with many of her partners in West Virginia. So that said, I'm going to bring up hopefully the images of a couple of these toolkits, just so that you have a sense of sort of the resources that we're hoping people can make good use of. This is the Growing to Standard producer tips. And as Tootie said, there's a lot of information in terms of other resources. So if you go to the final page, she gives you a list of national resources, local resources, and just a lot of existing examples of different cooperative grown standard organizations, and even some of the co-ops that use collaborative branding. So we want you to make use of these toolkits. Anything else you want to say maybe about this toolkit, Tootie?
I encourage people just to look over it. It may seem a bit basic for some people, and for some of us it's a good 101 for getting started. The most important part of the toolkit is it's there to instill some ideas and to get some healthy thinking going around how to better all of our businesses on farm and off. And I didn't list in there the NRCS and Conservation Service. They're local in everyone's communities, so we might want to add those on there. Notice that after bringing them up.
I know we always see something that we need to add, don't we? So then she has one, Growing to Standard, the retailer tips, so a lot of information here for retailers to talk about the economic benefits. How can I use standards in my retail business? So things to consider. So hopefully, as more people get a chance to look at these and see if they're useful, we certainly always welcome feedback. This is ongoing work between ACEnet and UFI. Hopefully we will see additional funding here as well. And then just some of the marketing toolkits that ACEnet has put together. We like to definitely represent the farmers and the food businesses that we work with. So you'll see a lot of maybe their best practices in terms of the wonderful logos or labels or marketing materials that they have developed. We give a lot of examples of how to develop print materials, point of purchase materials, even thinking as simply about signage, promoting your look at the farmer's market or any other direct vending, the partnerships you might have with maybe your restaurant or specialty food or smaller independent grocers who really showcase your meat products. So lots of examples here, again, that will hopefully be useful. One of our favorite ones, I know Derek, you're on the webinar with us, although we have you muted. We really love the work that our farmers and producers do to get really appealing logos and designs. So that's a big part of creating that brand equity, is thinking about your logo, even as simple as fonts and colors, what's going to look well. And then Madeline has put together another toolkit that even talks about how to take, good photography. So these might be just some general tips on using your cell phone to get better shots that you can post on your web page, on your Facebook page. We'll probably at some point do a toolkit even about taking cell phone video and posting that. So if there's certain topics that you would really like us to cover, certainly reach out to us. We're always interested in anyone's feedback to create more and more resources that can be useful and help our livestock farmers, help our processors, help our retailers, help our customers who are dedicated locavores to be part of this local food value chain. It's essential, I think, in our communities.